March 2024. This is the S&P 500 E-Futures Mini on the 2000 tick chart using NinjaTrader 8. This is what I saw. This is how I marked up my charts today. There was no economic data that came out. I think it could be best described as kind of a very gradual sell-off and then a very gradual rally. Almost looks like a very, very flat U. It was hard for me to really determine if there was in a trading range, but I guess you could say this is in a very large trading range. But in between, there was some resistance and support areas that weren't consistent enough for me to capture all the price action in what I thought was a reliable range. I didn't find too many setups. There were a couple of trades that I thought were good, but unfortunately, I wasn't able to take them for one reason or another. I also want to point out that there was a lot of volume today, and this was Friday. So I just want to kind of give this nice little indication to myself because I was checking, I was like thinking, man, price action is really slow today, but there were candles still, there's a lot of volume. So if you look from this, it's 6 o'clock Pacific Standard to about 10 o'clock Pacific Standard. This is about 3.5 solid hours of trading on Friday. That's how many candles we're printing. Then if you drag this over here, by the end of the day, the amount of price action and candles printing was not even 3 hours of price action on Friday. So it was a rather slow day. Unfortunately, I think what might have been a contributing factor was the ES as well as the NQ are rolling over to the next month's quarterly expiry. So if you're trading the ES H24, it's going to transition over to the ES M24, which has a June expiration because the March expirations are going to expire at the end of this week, which is, I think, quad expiration for a bunch of standard stock expiration on options. I think index funds and ETFs and just a whole bunch of futures and whatnot are all expiring on Friday. So you're going to see a lot more volume transitioning from the H24 to the M24. So I think that's kind of why there's a lot of volume, but it was kind of slow trading. So in the pre-market, prices look like they were starting to drift downwards. And from what Friday looked like, I thought it might kind of continue selling off because it wasn't a very clean range. And so I don't trade the pre-market, but I did see this. I didn't take it though. I saw after this push down, I drew what I thought was kind of this over top and bottom channel coming down. There was a smaller range that was working. It broke out and made one attempt down, pushed up, and I'm not thinking of necessarily it's going to go one way or the other, but I did see that this was a new low, first entry short. Technically, it's a first entry short. Well, let me restate that. It's a new low. You have a first entry short all the way to here, then it pushes up and makes a second entry short. And here it looks like it could be a potential second entry short failure. It's a pretty decent signal bar, but it's in the pre-market and it's about to open. So I marked it, but I didn't really want to take it. And I just thought, oh, this is kind of a nice little interesting setup, potential bounce. Even if I was in regular trading hours, I think I would have waited for a lower high or higher low confirmation that prices are going to continue pushing up to the top here because it is a break, one attempt down, maybe the second attempt down, maybe it's going to keep coming down. I don't know. So I would have waited for a higher low. Looks like if you did take the trade, you probably would have gotten the scalp right here. And you don't really get a higher low. But then prices continue moving. It falls into what I think is this trading range. At first, I actually had it as a support. There's no clean second entries here. Things are just very, very, really tight trading right here. EMA isn't quite a factor because it's flattening out and you're seeing prices both above and below. So I can't really trust it yet. Here I did start to see a third confirmation of this down channel on this big green one. It respects it kind of a fourth time here. So I'm thinking, okay, this could be a potential through channel. Prices might be starting to come back down, but I can't discount the fact that there's some kind of support here. Drops around, breaks out, but then it looks like it has a failed breakout and comes back in. Another failed breakout down here, but there's no clean entry. Then it starts flashing down. And unfortunately, I didn't see any good second entries or clean setups to try to take this down. Kind of follows on this yellow channel down pretty nicely, but there's no clean second entries. It's also far from the EMA. I did see this as a new low. It's a first entry short, potential second entry short setting up here. Now, I thought this was an almost trade. The entry would be aggressive if I did take it because I wanted this candle to come back to the EMA and then get rejected. But the signal bar for potential second entry short is pretty nice. It's the first break of this yellow channel, so you think prices do want to come back down and test the lows. But I wasn't 100% sure because it just came from the low of the day. So asking you to come back and press down further, maybe, maybe not. I decided to wait for a lower high confirmation. Ideally, it would come up, touch the EMA, be lower than these two guys, and then go down. It doesn't set up though, but I do see this kind of as a as a potential reversal trade. So I saw this down channel coming back down. It didn't quite hit the other side of this larger green channel. And I'll admit this next trade that I took is a little aggressive because I saw a new high. It's a first entry long pullback, second entry long. I decided like this is coming from the bottom and it already tested and broke the lows of this yellow channel. So there is enough reason to think there might be a slight bounce recovery. It's far enough from the EMA, so I don't have to worry about resistance just yet. So I saw it and I decided I wanted to take this trade. So I entered one tick above right here. The other risk is this is an inside bar, even though it is a good signal bar. I took it and it flashed up. I also counted the fact that this is only a 7-tick candle. So even though it's 7-tick though, I had to put my stop below this candle. So even though it's 7 ticks, I had to put it about 3 more ticks below, but I thought it was a good enough shot to try to take it, and I did take it. I tried to go for a runner as well, but I got stopped break even. So this is where I got the bulk of my trades out and then kind of break even. But if it didn't come back, it looks like the runner would have gotten a few more points out. Prices then continue. It starts kind of, it hits this small little consolidation area. Nothing I particularly like. There is a new high here. It's a first entry long pullback. There is a second entry long here. And it is kind of reaching a 1, 2, 3 triple test. The thing I wasn't too sure about and I felt a little bit risky of is it's in a very tight range. I wasn't too hot on this signal bar. I wanted this to close a little bit more of a body, but unfortunately it didn't happen and it just flashes up. If this had closed with a stronger body, I think I probably would have considered taking the trade. But unfortunately it didn't happen, so there was no trade for me. Prices then continue moving. It started to still respect the top of this down channel, but it is breaking out. So I'm thinking this resistance is losing strength. The next couple moves could have it break out because it is showing some kind of a bottoming pattern here because it's making higher lows each time. So it looks like this down channel resistance is not being strong anymore, kind of losing some power. I did see a new high here. It's a first entry long, second entry long. I wasn't too sure, so I didn't really want to take this trade, although there's a potential setup here. I was concerned that it's going to hit this, and there wasn't quite that much room to confidently scalp out. Prices then continue moving. You have a new low, first entry short. You get a second entry short here, and a second entry short failure, but it's far from the EMA. It's a little bit hard for me to know for sure that this is going to be a failure right here. So it didn't take this trade, didn't really mark it either, but I saw it. Prices then move up and it comes back down. And at this point, I'm thinking, is there some kind of resistance here? So I actually drew this blue line as a potential resistance and a potential bigger range, but I wasn't too sure where the bottom was because it wasn't consistent down here. Prices move down. So first entry long, technically you have a second entry long, but this is a really strong 5 candle push down. And this is kind of a small little attempt going back up. It could have been that the next candle could have just flashed up and continued back downwards because it's still within the shortened trend channel. So I didn't really think it was a good trade to take as a second entry long. Prices then move. It starts consolidating again. I saw this as second entry long here. It's a new high. It's technically have a new high here. First entry long, second entry long. But then you do have a new localized high here. So I saw this as first entry long pullback, potential second entry long, but it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. So I saw this, but then when I saw this, I thought, is there a trade here? Because it looks like bulls really are trying to reverse the tide. I didn't take it though, but I thought there is a potential trade there. Flashes up. It looks like it would have worked. You could have counted this as a higher low, but it is, again, very doji-ish, so it made me nervous. Saw a new low here, first entry short, second entry short. This is a bad signal bar to go short on. And then it looks like it's starting to reverse. And here's the failed second entry short. I thought this was an almost trade. For me to get a trade ready and had jumped onto this candle, I needed this guy to close more bullish, more higher up, ideally at or above the EMA and well within the move back into this trading range. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. So I left it alone. And then when this one flashed, I felt like the trade was already made. I didn't want to chase it. It looked like there was plenty of room for it to go, but of course I don't know that at the time. Prices continue moving. It fell short of this resistance. So I thought, actually, could it be that this is where the top of the range is, this potential resistance? Prices move. It hits this. It looks like, and it moves. It looks like it's going to get stopped here, but it breaks through. So I'm wondering if this is going to be resistance. It looks like it, but then it continues moving up. So at this point, I'm discounting, well, not discounting, but I'm not trusting this as a potential resistance or this one at this point. And I thought, okay, maybe it's even higher. But then if I have to constantly keep moving it up, it's telling me that the range really isn't holding or it's not a very consistent range. So I just kind of kept to the channel trading rule, the trend channel rules. Prices then start moving down and it flashes back up. Unfortunately, there's no way for me to see a good entry here. It's a new high. It's a first entry long. Technically, you have a second entry long. It's an inside bar. You could argue there's some kind of support here, but it's not clean because would I draw it here? Is this potentially the support? Excuse me. Is it slightly lower, even lower down here? All of that made it a little confusing for me, even though it's a second entry long here that and enough room to the EMA. The EMA itself is kind of choppy. All the previous price action hasn't been really respecting it for all too long, except for maybe early on here. But then it's been pushing up and down. So it's telling me there's a big range. It's just hard for me to know exactly where the big range lies. So that tells me just to sit on my hands, kind of be grateful for this one trade I had so far, because that might have been the only trade I get for the day. And it turned out that was truly the only trade I got for the day. So it's a new high, first entry long, second entry long. It's a higher low, but I wasn't too keen on this higher low. Then prices continue moving up, kind of chops around. And prices are just taking quite a while to close. So I wasn't too eager to jump on anything. It breaks above the EMA. EMA is starting to come into play, but it's still a little wishy-washy. It's a new high. It's a first entry long pullback. You have a second entry long, but nothing here would have told you to go long. It starts moving down on this channel, but then it doesn't hold for very long. It starts to break out. And I thought there was some kind of consolidation area here or congestion. But here, how do you trade this? It's kind of hard to tell. You have a new high, it's a first entry long. Technically, you have a second entry long here, maybe a third one there. Is there a triple test here? Not really. There is potentially a triple test here, but you would have had to taken it on this candle to go short. And seeing this in real time, I didn't have this drawn as a range yet. So it was a little hard for me to trust to go just shorting right directly just off a triple test. I want my triple test to be kind of in a well-defined trading range to feel a little more confident. This is just very unsure. Even this large down channel was a little unsure for me because it kind of fits nicely at the top, but not so well at the bottom. And even at the top, it did have these spike outs. So it was a little hard to trust my interpretation of the chart. So I felt I should just sit on my hands and wait. Then it breaks out, comes back down, and this is already really late in the day. As I said, there was a lot of volume, but it didn't correspond to a lot of candles. So what that's telling me is that each of these candles is a 2000 tick candle, meaning there's 2000 trades, but within each trade, the volume might have been pretty high. So even though there's just 2000 trades made, it could have been had quite a huge volume. Like if you look at here, looks like volume's like 3,000 shares or 3,000 contracts traded. So it was just very interesting when I saw that and I compared it to what happened on Friday. Yeah, this is less than 3 hours of candles on what happened on Friday. So it's a little more sparse. I couldn't quite find as many setups. The one setup I did take, I'm not too impressed with it. I think it was a little more riskier. I admit it was a little aggressive. And then other than that, there wasn't that many setups that I could find. So hopefully that was helpful.